Okay, so I finally checked out Smallville's episode Abandoned, and right now I got a little bit of mixed feelings towards some of it. So basically, what happens from the start is Clark finds out that Lois is unofficially moving in, alright? And that she's brought some stuff from home, the general center, stuff about her mom, and we're going to definitely talk about that. And she's kind of talking about, she's reminiscing about when her mom was in the hospital with cancer, and she was there for, like 5 weeks, and she didn't get to see her or say goodbye. And so she sees these videos, and she's like, okay, what's my mom gonna, what does she think? This is the last thing I have of her. So she's dealing with that. And in the meantime, Tess Mercer finds this music box after having a nightmare of it. Um, in this place she's never been to before. And it's basically this thing, like, it says, like, happy birthday to her, and it's not really her birthday. So she finds out with Clark and Watchtower that it is from an orphanage called St. Louise's, I believe, and it's run by Granny Goodness. They don't really give her a real name, which is odd, seeing that it's a newspaper article, and you would think that they would call her something other than, what the orphans nickname her. And so, yeah, they kind of, they go there and they try and get some answers. So they find out that there are girls there who are being sort of, abused and tortured, and Tess is figuring it out on her own, while Clark finds out that girls are being abused. Basically, they're having their memories erased by Granny. She's got sort of that, like, type thing that Maxwell Lord had, where she puts her hands over their heads and, erases their memories. And so she's sort of figuring out what Granny Goodness is up to on her own. And she finds out that the dream was real because she saw these scratches that she left in the dream. And they're on the, wardrobe that she left in the dream. And that's, like, really in the orphanage. And so she finds out that she was actually there, that the Granny Goodness lady has been keeping an eye on her. And, yeah, so she's kind of figuring out what's been going on. She realizes that she was actually the one, big shocker, who brought Tess back to life in Salvation, and that, she has a purpose for her. She wants her to become part of her female Furies. That's the unofficial name for the group that's training in the basement. She's basically turning all of her women into mindless killers. And the leader of them is Mad Harriet, played by Lindsay Hartley. Now, my sisters used to watch a soap opera called Passions, alright? And there was, the guy, Justin Hartley, he was on the show, and so was Lindsay Hartley, who, you can probably guess, they're married now. So, yeah, it was interesting seeing the guy who plays Green Arrow, his wife, be brought onto the show. And she's basically this, kind of psychotic girl who's got kind of the Freddy Krueger claws. And she's sort of torturing Clark in the basement. And it's interesting. Like, she's actually able to pull off the, homicidal maniac thing not too well. Not too bad. And she's, it's interesting seeing her kind of torture Clark. But at the same time, what's happening with that is Lois is trying to figure out from her tapes from her mom, who's played by Terry Hatcher, who played Lois Lane in Lois and Clark, The Adventures of Superman. And so, while that's happening, she's kind of, she gets told not to worry about having not been able to see her. She didn't want her to see her because she wanted happy memories of her. And the message she basically gets is, by the way, Terry Hatcher, man, even for like probably 3 minutes of screen time in grand total, she was just awesome. And it was great to see her finally be brought onto Smallville. And definitely the perfect, and I mean perfect choice to play Lois's mom in this continuity. Where was I? Oh, yes. She tells her basically the loss of a parent can be a very profound effect on somebody, and it can leave a hole in the person's heart. So that's why she made the tapes. And Lois decides, well, because Clark and Jor-El have not been able to make amends, that she wants to be able to patch things up between them. And so she goes to the fortress, and she's basically yelling at Jor-El because he's not talking to her. Wow, big shock. Jor-El really doesn't actually talk to people half the time that people go up to the fortress. Probably because they can't hire Terrence Stamp for as many episodes as they go up to the fortress. Anyway, so what happens is she's basically telling him off and saying that, you've abandoned your son, you're being a tool. And basically saying everything that I've been wanting to say if Jor-El was real. And so basically Jor-El lifts her off the ground and puts her into this big kind of prism or pillar of energy. We're going to get to that later in another video. So what happens with that actually is Clark comes in later. I have to move back to the other part. Clark is being tortured by Granny Goodness. We're getting a little hints of Darkseid. And Tess, meanwhile, is fighting Mad Harriet and some of the other female Furies. And so Clark is about to get his memories erased because Granny's like, you've had pain in your life. I'm going to basically erase your memories. And Clark is able to use his super breath to get rid of the kryptonite. Long story. Not that long of a story, but hey, I'm killing time. So he gets away from Granny, and Tess is able to fight off the female Furies, but she gets, the whip tied around her neck. Clark saves her. Clark goes back to the barn, finds out that Lois took the key to the fortress. And so he goes there. He basically saves her. Lois tells him, this is what needed to happen. You need to patch things up with your dad. And so actually what happens is you get a little hologram. The guest stars in this episode is like amazing. You get a hologram of Julian Sands and Helen Slater as Jor-El and Lara. And they're kind of telling, it's like, they don't say a lot that's, not anything we could have figured out on our own, but it was nice to see them together, and nice to see where it all comes, see them, acting together and kind of, treating Clark as parents, because, together it has so much, relevance, and it's just such a great presence to the show. So they kind of say, we're always going to love you. It's basically the same exact message that Terry Hatcher's video was to Lois. That's what it is to Clark. And so he kind of moves on from there. Lois unofficially moves, or she actually officially moves into the Kent farm, and then they're going off to some karaoke. And so what happens is Clark pulls out an engagement ring. I have said everything that I will about the Clark and Lois engagement, so I'm not going to say anything more. Smallville's obviously decided where they want to go. You know what? I have no power. Go ahead. And what's going on with that actually is Tess finds out that she was left at the orphanage by her birth parents. And she finds out that her birth parents were Lionel, Luther, and some other lady. Who cares about the other lady? Lionel friggin' Luther. She's Lex's sister. And I'm pretty sure she had the hots for her brother, technically. Thank you for that image, Smallville. Basically, this is just... I knew this was coming a while back. I saw a spoiler on the internet a while back ago, so I knew this was coming, but just seeing it for the first time. What? I don't understand what's the point. Maybe it's going to pay off later, but I just don't get it. I like to see where it's going to go. I just hope that it's going to be worth it. But yeah, that's basically my feelings on the episode.